Hello, and welcome tonight to Right on the Money. My name is Pastor Devin, and we're going to be talking tonight. At the end of every month, we talk about a class I do called Right on the Money, where we talk about different things that people deal with their money issues and things like that. And we try to give you different concepts because once you be successful, God wants you to be successful in all that you do with your money. He doesn't want you to be unsuccessful. So we've been doing a little different questions this quarter that people have asked. And today I had a couple interesting questions asked today. So we're going to go into that today, and hope you find it interesting. So let's just dive right into it. The first thing today is I was asked a question about couples and married couples and money and how that came and how some of the history behind that all came about. So we're going to talk about it tonight, and we're going to talk about the number one issue that most married couples have. But before we get to that, let's go with the number two issue that most married couples have. Any idea what the number two issue is? Well, number two issue is simply this. It causes fights in marriages. It's where to pick to go out to eat. Believe it or not, it's amazing. I know me and my wife, when we go out to eat, we're always wondering, hey, where are we going to go? And now the kids get involved. I'm like, well, I don't know. I don't care. Wherever you want. The problem is, if you go wherever you want, and then it's not something they want, they don't speak up. It's like, I didn't want to go there in the first place. But, it happens all the time. People fight over that. And it's kind of really silly. I do want to tell you right now, I don't really have an answer for that question for you. It really isn't a money question. So I'm not really going to go there. You're going to have to figure that out on your own. In our family, it's real simple. If no one can decide where to go, I just drive to the nearest Chinese buffet. That's just what I do and how I solve that problem. Now, whether that's the right answer or the wrong answer, that's just the way I solve it. But the number one issue that most couples have, whether married or unmarried, is how do we deal with money together in relationships? And so many people fight over money. They fight over this or that. And a question was posed to me a couple weeks ago. And actually it's been posed a lot of times over my career as a pastor. I do marriage counseling. Should a married couple have separate bank accounts? That's a question I hear all the time. And the follow-up question is, should couples who are not married have a joint bank account? So we're going to take both those questions separately. So let's start with the married question first. Should a married couple have separate bank accounts? And it really comes, and here's what it comes down to. It comes down to whether it is his money or her money. Now that's what it comes down to. Well, this is my money, and not she makes this money, and maybe he makes more or she makes more, and it really doesn't matter who makes what. And later on, we're going to talk about kind of where that bias came from at the end. I'll give a little sideshow at the end about how that came to be. But a lot of people find, I earned this, so I should be, and she earned this, so she can spend this. Or here's the thing. Here's the answer to that question. The answer is absolutely not. Married couples should not have separate bank accounts. They shouldn't. It shouldn't. Because why? When you get married, Jesus says the two become what? One. If you can't trust each other on money, guess what? It's going to be hard to trust each other on a lot of different things. One of the biggest things that drives us human beings is the ability to buy stuff. We think money is the key to how we live our life, how happy we will be. And it's also the key to how we think we control our lives. What is marriage? Marriage is saying to the other person, I give you all my life, and they give all the life to them. In order to have a happy marriage, you have to give everything to each other. And that means your bank accounts need to be combined. They need to be one account with both names on it. Not one account where one has all the access and the other doesn't. Because we have to build a relationship with trust. A lot of people get married and they go, well, I'm going to hold this back. I'm going to hold this back. Here's the deal. If you get married starting with that concept, you're well on your way to getting divorced. And then you're going to have all kinds of financial problems trying to separate things and things like that. And if kids are involved, it is not a great way to go. You need to, if you're going to get married and you say the two will become one, that means you are no longer, the husband's no longer the husband, the wife's no longer the wife. You are now a married couple. You are now one unit, and you should work for the benefit of both of you. You should both be able to trust each other, especially when it comes down to money. I know a lot of the couples who have separate bank accounts and go, well, you pay these bills and you pay these bills. Problem is, when you get married, they are your bills. They are our bills. It's a team working together. If one person's doing this part, one person's doing that part, you're not a team. You're two individuals cohabitating rather than a married couple where God said two become what? One. And it's very important not to have separate bank accounts when you get married, because you're not saying, I really trust the other person. Because you're saying in the back of your mind, well, if something goes wrong, I got this over here. That's not trust. And be 100% honest, that's not love. When we come to God, God says He'll meet all of our needs. We have access to everything God has. And you know what? God should have access to everything we have. It's a relationship that goes on. And it's about building trust. And that's why God put marriage in the Bible, so we could learn how to trust one another, so then we could do the same trust for who? For the Lord. And that way you can be set free in your finances, in places like that, because you realize that God's got it, that all the problems you have are not yours, they're God's. He's going to help you with it because you're part of one contract, one marriage contract. So it's very important that two people who get married, don't have separate bank accounts, because that will lead you to all kinds of problems and will lead you to financial ruin. Now, the question then a follow-up was asked to me about, but what if I want to surprise my husband or my wife? Well, that's a good question, because if you have joint bank accounts, well, then that means each person knows what's going on. Now, if you listen to me very carefully, I said, should a married couple have separate bank accounts? The answer is no. I didn't say you can't. I said it's a bad idea. But here's the only way you can have separate bank accounts. If and only if. I'm going to repeat that. If and only if. Got it? If and only if these next requirements are met. Number one, the main bank account is both names on it. They know what's in it all the time. Second of all, you can have a separate bank account for each other if and only if both people agree to it, both people know about it, and both people have access to it. Now, just because you have access to it doesn't mean you have to know what's in there. Okay? Now, my wife and I, we only have one bank account. We don't have separate ones. She's surprised from time to time. I don't ever ask. I trust her completely. I don't ask what she spends money on. She doesn't ask what I spend money on. We do have an overall knowledge of what our financial situation is. So we spend within our boundaries. We talked about, our different tiers. What's important for this, and this. Way back in the beginning of this series, you got to set those goals, and you and your wife or you and your husband need to understand exactly what those goals are, so you can become successful. Because if you're not on the same page, it isn't going to work. But if you if you want to have separate accounts, so maybe you want to surprise your spouse with a special present at Christmas or a birthday, I don't advise it. But if you do, it can't be secret. You can't have a secret account out there. It'll cause so many problems. Those of you who are older, you might have heard of a show called The Dick Van Dyke Show. I used to like watching that when I was a kid. No, I'm not quite that old where I watched it live, but I watched reruns when I was a kid. And there's this one episode where Dick Van Dyke and his wife, Laura, who's also married, Tyler Moore, he found a secret stash of money in her drawer one time. And it was a significant amount of money. And he saw that there, and what immediately raced through his mind when he saw that, he thought that she was doing something behind his back. Maybe she was going to leave him. Maybe she was with somebody else. And the whole episode, it's a comedy, was all based on Dick Van Dyke's paranoia that something was going on with his wife that he didn't know about. And long story short, the episode ends where she was saving up the money because she wanted to buy him a car. And she didn't want him to know about it. But because he found it out, it caused all kinds of things because he assumed certain things. Secrets, really when you're married, you shouldn't have secrets. Even the best secrets, like she trying to buy a car for her husband, can turn into something totally wrong if you do not have an open and honest relationship about all things, especially when it comes to money. You can keep secrets about little things here and there, and they can cause problems. Money will cause you all kinds of headache. Don't do that. Why take a chance? You can say, hey, I want to open an account. I want to put some money away. but it's here. You can access it if you want it. Now here's the deal, spouse. If you agree to that, you can have access to it. But if you want to be surprised, what? Don't access. Know you have access, but what? Don't access it. And then you can be surprised of whatever your spouse is doing for you. Now, I don't suggest that, because once you get separate accounts, though, boy, it's hard to just use them just for that. And then paranoia can say, now, trust me, if you're married, you love each other, you trust one another. If you can't trust one another in the money decisions, you are going to have a really tough time with a lot of other decisions, because people go crazy and paranoid over money issues. So if you are a married couple, let me please encourage you, no matter who makes what, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, no matter who makes what, you're married. It is not his money or her money. It is, you got to learn this word, it is our money. Okay? And when you come together, I work this much, and I work. It doesn't matter. You got married. Everything you have is everything the husband has is the wife's, and everything the wife has is the husband's. You have it. You own it all together, because you become one flesh, God says. And it's important to understand that principle, because when you get that down pat, because things are going to happen in your marriage life, and there's going to be issues that come up. When you are together as one, it's a whole lot easier to face the challenge than when you're both going in different directions. And that happens a lot, especially when you have separate bank accounts. You say, well, she's got to take care of that. Or no, he got himself in that mess. He has to get him out of that thing. Here's the deal. No matter who got in the mess, since you're one, you both got in the mess. So you need to work together. Otherwise, you can put undue stress upon your marriage. And don't think your kids don't see that. You might think, oh, they don't know we have separate things. When you have separate bank accounts, you act totally different about money and about decisions. You'll say things that your kids will catch on. Like, oh, you got money, you go do it yourself. Or I'm not going to. You say words that they'll catch up on. And you become so accustomed to saying, you won't even know you're saying it. And when you tell someone, hey, you got your money, you're also saying, I don't really love you. Why? Because love means you trust the person 100%. Love means you're vulnerable, where you trust the other person won't hurt you. When you have separate bank accounts, you're putting yourself a safety net where if the person hurts you, you're okay. But then you're never putting yourself all out there, and you never have true love. And what happens is safety net actually becomes a barrier for you having true love and having a mature relationship that can withstand the pressures of this life. And so that's really critical. So I highly suggest that if you're a married couple, do not. If you're out there watching today, and you do have separate accounts, I'm not condemning you in any way. I'm trying to help you. If you really think about it, you can see how there were problems in your marriage. I can tell you that. I mean, no matter how long you've been married, go out and do that. As part of my marriage counseling here at the church, I tell that to anybody who gets married. And if you're not willing to do that, I won't marry you. Because how can you not trust one another with money, but say you love one another and trust 100%? How can you stand before God and say, God, I promise to give my whole life to this other person. Oh, but I'm going to keep my own bank account. Does that make any sense? And then they wonder why God doesn't bless the marriage. Because if you don't give yourself fully to one another, you haven't really gotten married in the sight of God. Because you haven't done it what? The way God says to what? Do it. The two become one in everything, and especially when it comes to money. And then here's you have maybe some issues, but then God is with you because you're doing everything that God asks you to do. Guess what? He'll show up and he'll solve the problem. But so many times we want God to solve the problem, but we don't want to do it what? God's way. Now, let's switch gears here. Couples. Say you're a couple, you're thinking about getting married. Okay? Now, if you're a couple, you should get married. If you're out there and you're watching this and you're a couple and you're living together, God says you shouldn't do that. Don't defile that before marriage, because you're cheapening what it could be, what that could be in your life. And I'm not to condemn you either, but a lot of people say, well, why isn't God blessing us? Well, if God says you should not do this, God gives an order of how things are supposed to be done. When we do it out of order, you can't expect God to bless things that we do what? Out of order. You got to do things in order. So I'm talking from a point of view of a dating couple. A couple that's dating, thinking about getting married, and that type of thing. Well, should we get our finance together before we get married? Should we open a joint account? Oh, I'm going to give you the exact opposite advice as the married people. Until you actually tie the knot, you should have separate accounts. Once you tie the knot, one of the first things on your agenda should be to fix that problem. To go get a joint account after you're married. Because you know what? Until the day you get married, something can go wrong. I've seen marriages end a day before. I've seen that happen. And you know what? Do not mix things until you're actually married. Just like you don't mix love and the things that come with marriage. I don't know what age is watching. How you're not supposed to do that ahead of time. Don't get out of order in how we're supposed to put things together. When you get married first, then do all the things to line that up when you're married. Because here's the deal. As a couple, if you have a joint bank account, what if you don't get married? What if you walk away? How do you separate that? That's a mess. And I want to let you know, because, we got to be careful when we get married. That's why we do marriage counseling. Why? To find out if people should get married or not. Because, a lot of people get married for the wrong reasons. When you're getting married, who should you marry? You should marry your best friend. Love, sometimes we think, we're truly deep in love, but sometimes it's just an emotion. Love is very important. You know what deep love is? A deep friend. Why? Because the deep friend will stick with you through anything. A best friend will be with you at all times. And that's what it means, because marriage is not always going to be pie in the sky. Okay, there's going to be issues. You need someone who will stick with you, not someone who says, this isn't what I thought it was. Well, I don't have those lovey-dovey feelings anymore. Love is more than a feeling. Love is a lifestyle. Love is an action. Love is a verb. Love is something you have to work at. And if you're just looking at for the feelings, then you shouldn't get married to that person. They need to be your best friend, because best friends know there's going to be issues, and you can have an argument, you can have a fight, but still be together, because at the core, the love conquers all, because you're best friends, and you say, you know what, I know something, it's not really who that person, or I know we can work this out because we're our best friends. But at the same time, before you get married, sometimes people realize that maybe that wasn't their best friend. Maybe they're getting married for the wrong reason. But if you commingle your finances before you get married, it's a mess. Some people will come up to me and ask, should we buy a house together before we get married? Until you have a contract, you have no what? Protection. People go, marriage is just a piece of paper. No, it's not. God asks us to get married, and that piece of paper gives you protection, gives you rights. Until you have that, guess what? It's a mess to undo all of that. Don't go ahead and do that ahead of time. Get married first, then do the other steps. A lot of people do all the steps first, and they don't get married, and then they got to figure out how to untie their money. I mean, how many times I've seen court cases or heard people come to me and say, well, they went in and we didn't get married, and they took all the money out of the account, and it wasn't just theirs, it was mine too. But you can't prove that because you put your money together, and the judge goes, how do I know whose money is whose? Unless you have every pay stub you've ever had, or a letter from every grandparent or mother or father who gave you a gift, how are you going to prove what's yours and what's theirs? It is an absolute mess. And I'm going to be 100% honest. The courts don't deal very well with people who aren't married in that scenario, because when you're married, it's real simple. Worst case scenario, it's a 50-50 split. When your couples say, hey, what if you're giving more into the thing? Hey, how does the judge separate it? And if someone takes it all out, but you weren't married, but you agreed to have a bank account together, you really have absolutely no leg to stand on in court if things would go wrong. Now, occasionally, yes, people do win those cases, but it's the rare thing, not the norm. And people, as I've been in the ministry 20 years, I can't tell how many times I've had to deal with somebody where this exact thing has happened. Let me tell you, if you're a couple, don't commingle anything until, especially money, especially sex, until you get married. Because once you do it, it's impossible to unring those bells. And the financial mess that can happen from that. Because the other person can take you and open other accounts in your names, and you're not even legally married, but yet because you gave them access to your bank account, they have all the information they need, and if they really get mad at you, they can make your life miserable. Now, I hate to say, but that person would never do it to me. If I had a nickel for every time someone said that to me, because they really didn't go into marriage looking for their best friend in this relationship, and then they're crying afterwards. You know what? And I'm not here blaming anybody if that's you. Joanne's not the first person that I dated. I dated others. No, I didn't do any of the other stuff till I got married. I was a virgin when I got married and all that. But I could save myself a lot of heartache and pain instead of just and thinking through some different things. I want to help you with that because it happens so often. And I'm not just talking to young people here. I've heard this story from older people who get married, maybe their spouse died and get with somebody else, and then a disaster happens. And I've seen people try to take everything that they've worked their entire life for, even the stuff their husband had, and they steal it from them. Because of a little fight happens and they decide to cohabitate and commingle their finances. It's not something that's wise to do. So if you're a couple and you're dating and maybe you're thinking about getting married, do not put financial things together until you sign the paperwork, until you actually stand before God and get married. Because up until the moment that they say I do, it's not written in stone. Okay? So please take that advice. Please understand, I'm trying to help you tonight. Now the question about his money or her money, I said I would come back to that. We got about 10 minutes left, and in our session today, and that's a huge problem in America today, because equal rights and women should get paid the same as men, and now I want to stop right there and say, you know what? Hey. If a woman's working a job, hey, she should. The Bible says the worker is worthy of their hire. It doesn't say whether the worker is a man or a woman. If they're working a job, they are worthy of the hire. They are worthy of what the job pays. No, there is no question about that. But something happened in the Americas shortly after World War II. We went what we call our golden age of America, the 50s. And into the early 60s. And a mindset arose in America that really wasn't the mindset before World War II. And early as in America, through the Industrial Revolution and things like that, usually the man and the woman both worked unbelievable hours. But after in the early 1900s through World War I, World War II, the rise of the middle class came to be, and it really took its height in the 50s and late 40s, all through the 50s, early 60s. It reached the height. And what happened was you have the thing that people don't like today. You have the picture of the man going to work and the woman staying at home and with the kids, and that's the way the perfect ideal American society should be. And I'm not saying that's right, because what happened during that time frame is men got a higher ideal of themselves than they should have. Because I want to give you a little history. Why did companies during that time, when there was time where women stayed at home and the man worked, it wasn't because the man was better. Actually, you look biblically upon it. The man's going to work, the woman's going to raise the children, all these different things about there, and they go back to all that. But man and woman are equal in God's eyes. The man's supposed to be the head of the house, but serve the wife as Christ served the church. And what's God do? Jesus is a servant. He makes sure everything is taken care of. And the woman's supposed to submit to the husband, not to do everything the husband says, but to support the husband in what he does. So they work together as a team. They're on equal ground. But what happened, a concept happened that rose the middle class, is companies understood this. They understood that if they were going to be profitable, they needed to create a culture in which society was stable. Because for a while it just wasn't stable. Things weren't going the way they were, and America really took off in this time period, the late middle of the 20th century in through the 50s, 60s, and really it's still part of our foundation today. And what companies did, and when the man was at work and the woman was at home, it wasn't that the woman was less than the man. What it was is companies realized that, if they're going to produce a good workforce, it's going to produce profit in the future, it's going to make the country great. But most importantly, we live in a capitalist society, makes their company great, and in the future, so they continue to make money, and so on and so on and so forth, they valued the fact of being able to train up the next generation. So what happened men were paid, and women were supposed to stay home, and they got this dichotomy. But what the company was saying, they saw the value of the woman staying at home, making sure a home was great, making sure that the children were raised right. So the future was what? In short, actually the companies valued the women more than they valued the men. Because the woman they let the woman take care of what was very important. Society, culture was impressed upon the women to make sure it grew up and went in a certain direction. So the companies paid the men more, not because they were worth more, because it was worth it to them to have this type of society so the women would be free to do what was very important, especially with raising the children and things like that. And that was an honor for that. And actually, when the company paid the man more, he was actually paying so the woman can be. So the woman was getting paid. So that comes back to this, that no matter who makes what, it's a team. It's two have become one. And that's what the concept is. If you get that, it'll save a lot of problems in your marriage. Now, the problem with American society is it made man think, well, we're more important and women are less important. And then and gave rise to what we have today with the women's lib movement and all these different things here. And that's the problem. Women were never supposed to be treated less, but it happened because men got prideful, and that's a sin. Men took it to the wrong direction, saying, well, we're important and you serve us. No, that's never really how it should have been. God gave an opportunity in this country for men to do, what Genesis says, to go out and do that, so the woman could do what God wants the woman to do, because they both working together, because someone's got to work, someone's got to prepare, someone's got to raise up the children. It has to happen. I mean, I'm fine too if the woman wants to go work and the guy stay at home and she makes all the money so he can stay, so the children and so the house can be the way it's supposed to be what God wants you to be, so you can have this full and abundant, wonderful life. Now, I'm not saying that the woman and the man both can't work and you have to go have child care. That's wrong. No, I understand. We live in a day and age where that kind of society that we had in the 60s and 50s has all been torn down now. And the bad thing is it was torn down in the 50s and 60s by this attitude. It has nothing really to do with the people today. They didn't realize how good it had and how really it was lining up biblically back then. But the problem is that men started to go here and they started to push women down. And that was the absolute worst thing that should have ever happened. You should have realized, hey, I'm working hard so you can be here because the woman was actually more important in this scenario. Because if the society falls apart, then chaos ensues, and then profits go down, and it affects everything in society. You're starting to see that, today? I mean, look at each young generation since then, where the things have changed, and it's a fight between a battle of the sexes, and it's a terrible thing. It should never be a battle of sexes. We should honor one another. We're equal before God. There's not one better or worse than the other. And both have their advantages and both have their faults. And we work together to make something amazing. And that's what God made us. And we get to think, well, this is my money. I should make more. No, if they're working the same job, yeah. But what happened in the back is that they were paying the men so the lady could stay home. Today, hey, if they want to pay the lady a lot more so the guy can stay home, there's nothing wrong with that. And men will think, well, it's a horrible thing. No. Raising children and keeping a great home going forward is not a bad thing, because you know what? It helps make you feel better as a whole. It makes the person, whoever's working out, doing those things, it makes it a better thing. And that's what that's what the system was designed for. It wasn't to push women down. The problem is it did, because a lot of men who took advantage of this didn't really look at it the way God would look at it. And guess what? It made the women feel devalued. So today, I know it's a money class, but if you're married out there, hey, we talked about not having separate bank accounts. If you're not married, don't do that till you get married. But if you get anything out of this class, if you want to really have a happy marriage, there's nobody on top. Women, the wife and the husband are equals. And whatever both do should be highly valued. I mean, I can't tell how many times I counsel people, well, what I do is too important and she just doesn't understand it, or what she does, he doesn't get it. But that is the problem. You have to get it that you're working together as a team, and what each of you both do, whatever it is equally valuable. And if we start to look at it that way, it'll help your marriage. If you're dating and thinking about getting married, that's a conversation you have, because value is important. Jesus, he says he wants to have a relationship with us. He gives us what? Value. We're not a king and a servant relationship with God. He's the king, but he brings us into what? His family. He adopts us. We're joint heirs with Christ. He gives us what? Value. And that's the secret really to a great marriage, is learning that each one is equally valued. And when you value each other, you both feel great, and you can accomplish anything when that's your attitude. And so it's very important we understand that today. So I want to just give you a little hope. And you may agree, disagree, feel free to put comments on the screen, and that's fine. But I wanted to show you today, just give you some practical advice, because I've seen it in my 20 years of ministry, how this is a money problem that affects relationships. And even if no matter what relationship you're in, whether you're in the couple status or the married status, it just affects, and it really comes down to value, which is what money's about, right? Value. How much do you value the other person? And here's the thing, you got to value each one as not so much equal value, but you need to value your wife or your husband like this. Boy, they're so valuable, I can't do it without them. But it can't just be one way, because in one way, one will get a big head and one will feel less. No, but both, the husband and the wife have to look at each other and say, boy, you're the most valuable thing in my life. Okay, if you do that, the rest of this stuff, I mean, dealing with the money things, that'll fall into place. But if you don't have that value assessment that each of you is super valuable to the other, you won't be able to fix any of the problems going forward. And also don't think just because, well, someone has a paycheck and one doesn't, that the other person's working for free. No. In our household, my wife has chosen to stay home with the children. Because it's most very important that my two girls grow up with Christian values, knowing how to live life, seeing a godly example, and being in instruction. Because the primary instructor in your life for your children is who's with them the most. If you're in schools the most and never with you in daycares, guess what? They're going to be their instructors. God wants you to be their instructors, and it's a great value because then they grow up and you wonder why. Well, they're not like me. They don't follow the values that I instilled in them. Well, you'll find out why. And it doesn't matter who does it. Both the husband and wife should be involved in that. Now, there's different ways of doing that, different ways of contributing to that. But that's very important. And we need to look into value of that. So many times we don't look at that as valuable because I'm not doing this or I'm not doing that. And I'd actually make the argument, whoever's at home making the home great, because if you work, you want to come home to a nice home. You want to come home to love. You want to come home to children that are doing the right thing. That the person at home is much more valuable than the actual guy working for the paycheck. But the guy working the paycheck is providing the opportunity for those people to what? To succeed. So the whole family as a unit, what? Succeeds. And when we look at it that way, it'll cause a lot less strife. So, I hope you enjoyed tonight's class. If you came in late, just go back, rewind. In a few minutes, I'll post it on Facebook. It'll also be on YouTube. And remember, as always, that Jesus loves you, I love you, and you are awesome.